And now we are beginning.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Okay.
Hopefully I
Okay.
zoom
So
out.
introduce yourself.
My name is Kate Paul.
Tell us who you are, what you do.
Long time ago, when I first started, I had this woman friend, Lois. And she looked at my work and she says, it's whimsical surrealism. That's what she coined. And I like that. Because in the art world, of course, what's going to happen is that when you're a fine artist and you get reviewed, you're always being put against what's come before. So they often say you're a derivative of this or that, and they try to find the influences in your work. And I'm influenced by so many things that I'm a little hard to pin down, which is a double-edged sword. It can be good for me and it can be bad for me in terms of how I'm perceived in the world. Oops, I got too much, and you can't really control it too much. You just have to kind of go for it. And that's what I do. That's what I do when I come in here and play. I'm just trying things out. Try to I'm seeking something kind of big. I'm taking a real big long shot, and here it is. I don't know if anybody will understand it. I like making pictures that seem accessible to people in general, like people respond, but then they're not quite normal. Like I'm basically painting myself, but I only know so much of myself. So the more I paint, the more the paintings describe me. So the best way to answer that is to look at the paintings, I suppose. Yeah, I like that. I think I'm going to leave that be. I like it the way it is, but to superimpose a drawing over it later might be a bit of a challenge. So I think I'm going to let it be and just take me chances. A brief history of Kate's time here. I came out of the womb being a singer. This was a gift I was given, and I sang from being a really small child, and I chased it for a long time. Into my early 30s, I wanted to be a pop singer, and I performed in clubs and made an EP. In those days, 4-song EP was, you were it. And I was young and didn't always know how to choose people that were good for me to have around, so that didn't last. And I had painted, but I didn't take it seriously. I had done part of an apprenticeship, but not the full apprenticeship, because when you're young, you think, I don't need this. And I did graphic arts. I worked doing paste up before desktop publishing. And then in the mid-'80s, I took a year sabbatical and went walkabout for a whole year without having a place to live. I had got back into the States from the UK, and I didn't know what to do. I was in my mid-30s, and I couldn't go back to doing graphics. I guess I could have kept on with singing, but I had not been writing songs very much, and so I got offered to stay, help some friends out who were remodeling a house in Los Angeles, and that's how I got to go there. After having been a theater painter, I got offered to work in a movie, in a scenery shop, which was like an airplane hangar. Ultimately, it's where I met the love of my life, my husband. It was in Los Angeles, to see what it was like to work in the movies. And it kicked my butt, I'll tell you. It was really, really tough. We left left LA in '92 and went to Seattle. I was vying for what was tantamount to a straight job for a scenery painter, to be hired at a theater full-time with benefits. It was sort of like, that's what you would do next. And then it fell through. And that's when I went into business for myself, like I said, doing decorative painting. And basically, scenery painting was what stuck with me. And this was the heady days when decorative painting was really taking off in homes. And in Europe, it's a long-standing tradition. I would have been called a colorist, where you go and you do marbling and wood graining. And those are part of the scenic arts. That's kind of where it came from. Unfortunately, my husband and I rented a little house, and he was in the shower one day and went like this, and he ruptured a disc in his neck, and we didn't have benefit, so he was operated on, and we moved back here where he's from, Michigan. He's from Redford. And I painted, oh my gosh, I painted anything that wasn't nailed down. I worked a lot through the Michigan Design Center, working for interior decorators and painting. Always painting. Murals and faux finishing and all that sort of thing. And I'm proud to say that I'm still here doing it. But always, after the paid work was done, I was trying to teach myself how to be a fine artist. To me, the whole process of working was my own school to learn how to learn my craft. All the while, I was secretly teaching myself to sort of have my own voice on canvas. One of the people that I worked for was an architect, and he designed pubs. And I worked with him, and he was the voice that said, Kate, I think you should trust yourself enough, you could go on your own. And that really meant a lot. You have to have those people along the way. They sort of guide you to to say, yes, have the confidence of your convictions to go forward. I think that the first painting that I made that kind of wasn't amateur looking, that looked like it was a complete painting. It looked like, you know, it had a little effort in it, not too much effort that I killed it by overworking it. I never sold it. I don't know why. It's not that I didn't want to, it just hasn't happened. So I can show it to you if you'd like to see it. I don't know how we're going to do this, other than to show my fiddly closet here, which looks pretty horrible, actually, to have all this in here. But there you go. They got to be somewhere. So this is where they are. And you wanted to see the first one I ever did. I remember you asked me. I might as well drag it out now. Not the first one I ever did, but the first one that kind of set me on the path after making a lot of junk. And it's a very fantasy one. It's nothing like the way I work now. So there it is. It's the very first one. I'm casting a shadow on it. So let me move out of your way. And it's cold. Let's see, what is it called? Hide and seek. That's what it's called. Those two and this one on the side are the newest, plus what's in the studio that I made when we were here last. I'm sure there are lots of people who scratch their head at what I do. I'm sure of it, because it's not something you can say, it's this. And lots of artists have that trouble and it's even harder for us because we're asked to defend it and explain it and write our artist statements about it. And sometimes we get lost in the weeds because we don't even know sometimes what we're making. I think that on the very purest basic level, everyone should respond to an image, just like to a piece of music or to a movie, by how it feels. First of all, trust your feelings. Second of all, if you really want to know, read a little bit about who they are. You know, who was like the Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera exhibit that was just here was amazing. And I think you should be really, ultimately, no matter how much you read about a person or see this video and listen to me talk about what I do, it still should come down to the art itself. And if you like it or not, if it speaks to you on some level, even, like I keep saying, even if you don't know why, because it should make you happy, it should make you feel, it should be provocative, it should be something that could challenge your thoughts, perhaps. This is manna from heaven. I mean, I have to have a place to play. Any artist has to have a place to play where you don't have to clean up your mess, you know, because it's supper time or something. But this chair is old because it's one of those ones where you can tip back without falling over. I've had it a long time. I bought it at a jumble shop. It'll probably move with me again. It's moved a couple of times. But yeah, it's a thinking chair. It's not really a good rolling around working on a painting chair. It's really when I want to stop and look at what I'm doing and decide, do I like it? What should I do to it next? And if it's not pleasing, at least I hope it confuses me. So that's how I approach everything. Do I like it? Does it confuse me? And then learning to realize that being confused is okay. So you have to have a chair like this to sit and be confused in. Currently, I'm playing with the idea of casting charcoal onto a canvas and then dispersing it with water and denatured alcohol and seeing the marks that is made, and I let it dry. Over top of that, I superimpose images, maybe that I've collected by my own photography or my own drawings, because I draw incessantly. Not necessarily drawings from life, maybe just drawings of made-up things in my head, and I superimpose them together. From here, I don't know what I'll do with it. I might put some other image with this tree. I might put some geometrics with the tree, you know, some geometry, some shapes, some linear shapes. But right now, I'm just interested in following what I can see, because I can't see all that well. And it's just a place to start. And then sometimes along the way, there might even be some you know, spattering and, kind of throw in the kitchen sink at it, you know, because you add and subtract. You go down the rabbit hole of trying out all these things, and then sometimes it looks really terrible, and then you back up and then you go do something simple. But to me, it's playing with the materials a lot and then playing with the images and then figuring out which images look good together. Oh, it's so much different when you turn the lights back on.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. I like it because, see, again, it's a nod to realism, but it's not. It's something else. It's something other. It's taking something simple and familiar and abstracting it a little bit. Kind of almost feels done, but I'm not sure. The Upper Hall Gallery at Liberty Street Brew Pub in Old Town Plymouth on West Liberty Street, Plymouth, Michigan. And this is a microbrewery, and they have this wonderful old building, and they have a rented hall here, and they let me hang out here. So every 2 months I change it, but right now my own work is here to have something to look at on the walls for the patrons. Stone wall and these steps, I ran up and down as a child 1,000 million times on the phone. That's exactly what this picture is. This picture is a painting of a memory of a place that meant a lot to me. And this is all that kind of remains, really. And so you can see there's part of a building here that the path would have just walked down the side of. But to me now, because it's history, it's in the past, it's more of a dream, and so it's painted like a dream. I translated banyan trees, like a grove of them, and on top of that, again, I took one of my own scribbles from a sketchbook and superimposed it on top. A linear image over something that has more depth. So that's why I call it the long view, even though she could be very nearsighted, who knows. It's called Moon Shards. It's partly an experiment, or mostly an experiment really, of cutting holes in the canvas and then lighting the canvas, lighting it from behind the image. Everything from external roots in the ground, tree roots, to branches reaching to the sky, to nerve endings, to connectivity and communication, dreams. I call it plant a kiss. I made a scribble in my book and translated it onto here like a big thunder cloud that maybe is creating like this vortex or a sinkhole or something in water perhaps. So I like it because it's simple and a little bit curious, so I decided to call it Thunderhead. Alright, we'll give that a steep while we take the painting out. Let that percolate. So my idea, believe it or not, is to add red to this picture. I'll either go right over the top part of the branches, or I might put one behind them or one down like underneath where the branches come together at the bottom. Matisse used to say, paint like a child, because that's the purest expression of how you feel and you're happy and you're, you know, you being alive and your happiness. I was looking for something to go with the tree, and I wasn't in my head to do a figure. The branch comes up and almost becomes a body, but isn't. And then the gesture of a hand kind of touching the ground. And it just appealed to me. Bluebirds, they're very hard to see, they're very fleeting, but they're also very beautiful. So I just use them as sort of hopefulness. Again, it's just another visual symbol that I use. So that's why I stuck them in there. They're not quite finished yet. They're still a little in their infancy. There's one story I want to tell you. I was at the DIA once, and I have certain favorite departments I like to go to, certain galleries I like to go to. And I was walking towards this one gallery, and it's in a hallway, and there was this painting hanging on the wall. And it just looked like you were saying before, over a couch painting. It was just brown, mucky. And then it looked like it had like thin, dark lines through it. I never considered this painting. I thought it was, that's not much of anything. Until one day, I don't know why I did it, I walked up close to it and looked at it. And it was made by, I believe, an Iranian artist. And what it was all these words written and then crossed off. And it was so tone on tone, you barely could perceive it unless you were very, very close to it. And it was, the whole piece was about the voice that women didn't have in that culture. And then it blew the top of my head off because it was so amazing. We're trained to look at art as being pretty or impressionistic or being certain things, and as art is pushing the envelope more and more in the future, trying new things and experimenting in ways that we've never seen before, it kind of throws a cocked hat into it. And how to understand it is to sort of give it a go, kind of, you know, like kind of jump in the deep end of the pool, to find out about it. And some of it, again, you're going to like, and some of it you're going to not like. But it is becoming much more about the idea than the execution in some ways. It's my studio thinking today.
Tell us who you are, what you do.
The more I paint, the more the paintings describe me. So the best way to answer that is to look at the paintings, I suppose.